Uh, you, if you are in the right place, are talking to a Northwestern representative as well as two of my wonderful colleagues from Northwestern Career Advancement. I might as well introduce myself. My name is Mauricio Gonzalez. I am an assistant director of undergraduate admission at Northwestern. I graduated 2 years ago from Northwestern. Yes, this webinar will be saved onto our YouTube channel. I see that first comment already. What was I saying? I graduated from Northwestern, and I also have the privilege of getting to talk to wonderful folks just like the two that we have here today. And without further ado, I'll let them introduce themselves, whoever wants to go first.
Great, I can go first. My name is Kamilah Allen. I have worked for Northwestern Career Advancement for 12 years this November. So I have a long career of supporting students in their academic and career development. And so I'm looking forward to being part of this conversation today as you think about Northwestern for your next steps. I also have a master's degree from Northwestern. I graduated from the counseling psychology program as well.
Go Cats, love it.
Go Cats.
We also are really lucky to have one of Kamilah's colleagues and one of my colleagues. Geni, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. So I'm Geni Harclerode, and I haven't been at Northwestern quite as long as Kamilah. I'm not gonna top that. But this is my fifth fall working at Northwestern Career Advancement, and I have the pleasure there of overseeing our employer relations team. While I did not graduate from Northwestern, I can tell you that in my tenure here, I have acquired a lot of purple, and now wear it quite frequently. So.
I love it. It's never a bad day to wear purple, even if our purple may look mauve, dusty pink rose. I don't know, it's not my situation. Eggplant. We love all shades of purple at Northwestern.
We got lucky with a good color to accessorize and wear.
There you go.
No shade to other universities, but I feel very lucky to have this color. Yes, exactly.
And Kamilah also has Northwestern gear for those who aren't aware. It's just hiding a little bit, but our Northwestern pride is very evident.
I'll sit up nice and tall so you all can see it.
Love it. Well, thank you so much to the two of you for being here. Just to let our audience know who's tuning in here today, we will be taking the first half of this programming or so for Geni and Kamilah to share a little bit about how they support students at Northwestern through Northwestern Career Advancement. We've had incredible success due to the hard work that they both do and their colleagues do and our students do. So you'll really have the opportunity to ask the questions that you're curious about related to internships, job placement, other career fairs that we do, anything along those lines that they'll talk about. So please do drop your questions in our YouTube chat. That's what we'll be discussing and answering in the second half of our programming here today. Hope that sounds good with everyone. I can't get a confirmation from people. Maybe you can write yes or thumbs up in the chat. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Geni and Kamilah and allow them to talk a little bit more about what NCA does.
Great. Thank you so much, Mauricio. And as I said, we're so happy to be part of this conversation as you're considering Northwestern. We hope to see you also in purple in the future. So let's talk a little bit about what we do in Northwestern Career Advancement, or NCA is our acronym that we use on campus. Northwestern Career Advancement is the comprehensive career center for students at Northwestern. We serve all undergraduates and all master's and PhD students on campus. And we provide a wide range of career support as you are thinking about gaining skills and experience and pursuing different paths. I'll talk first about our student-facing side of our office, and then I'll toss it to Geni, and she'll talk a little bit more about how we work with employers who would hire our Northwestern students. The way we support students at Northwestern is we really meet you where you are in the career development process. And so sometimes when you are entering college, you might be still thinking about career paths, unsure of where to start, not sure maybe how some experiences you have may translate into future careers, and that's okay. And we have a team that works with students on really thinking about exploring careers. They use some of the assessments you might have taken in high school, like the Strengths Quest or the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the Strong Interest Inventory. Those are all really great tools to help you learn a little bit more about yourself and your skills and interests and values and how those things might apply to potential career paths. We also work with students who are choosing a major. And while your academic advisors also support you in selecting a major and thinking about that, the way we have that conversation is also thinking about how majors connect to career paths. So let's say you know there's something you want to do, but you're not sure which major might direct you in that way. Well, the truth is, our employers, and Geni will talk more about this, look for students from all majors to do the work, but you might be curious about how certain majors connect to work you may do in the future. So we have those types of conversations with students as well. As you start to kind of focus in on a career path or a few career directions of interest to you, we have a career advising team that can support you as you make those decisions about internships and other opportunities to gain experience. So our advising team is structured by school. So once you enter a school at Northwestern, then you have the same career advisor potentially for 4 years who can work with you as you look for internships, and then senior years you look for full-time employment after graduation. So what that looks like is maybe finding those internships or opportunities like research or volunteer roles that may be connected to things you're interested in, applying to those opportunities and preparing documents like resumes, cover letters, or any other document that might be needed as a part of the process. Interview preparation, we do something called a mock interview where we sit down with you for an hour and go through what a real interview would look like and ask questions. Networking, finding Northwestern alumni and other professionals in areas of interest that you can talk to more about the work they do and potential opportunities. And then accepting offers. So once all this comes together, right, ideally you get an offer and we can work with you on how to accept that offer or potentially negotiate an offer. Our team also supports graduate school advising. So if you're thinking about a master's or PhD after graduation, we have that team in our office, as well as we have a full-time pre-law advisor who supports students in exploring legal careers and then actually applying to law school after graduation. In addition to that, we have a wealth of resources on our website, which is northwestern.edu/careers, on many of the topics I just spoke about previously. And those are also things that our team prepares to support students in the process of identifying career paths and applying to opportunities. And then we do programs. Presentations throughout the year. Right now, all of our appointments and programs are happening via Zoom, but we found ways to connect with students remotely. We also partner with other offices on campus, like Student Enrichment Services, which works with first generation and or lower income students, multicultural student affairs, some of our partners in academic schools and colleges to really create customized programs that give career information that is tailored to identity or experience. So that's a little bit of what we do on the student-facing side. I'll let Geni talk more about our employer relations work.
Great. Thanks so much, Kamilah. And I love that Kamilah provided an introduction of what we do on the student-facing side, because the area that I oversee in the office, our employer relations team, really works and is meant to function as a complete complement to what it is that our colleagues that are student-facing do. So much like our student-facing team represents students across every career interest, every major, we too work with every type of employer you can possibly imagine. So the portfolio and the breadth of the employers that we work with is really meant to represent the wide diversity of the interests of our students. And we do this through what we kind of think about as portfolio management. So each member of the employer relations team actually works within a certain subset of industries: nonprofit or government, education, consulting, finance, marketing, journalism, you name it, right? Those folks are really responsible for managing the relationship with organizations that are interested in hiring Northwestern talent. I often joke that I have the easiest job in the world some days, because our job is basically to convince employers how wonderful Northwestern students are. That is not a hard sell, as you can imagine. So we have the great pleasure of working with organizations who are really, really interested in engaging with Northwestern students at all facets of their and all stages of their career. So we actually work with employers who are interested in bringing students on for internships and full-time opportunities, but even a lot of our employers increasingly are offering introductory opportunities for students to explore their field through first or second year experiences, shorter term experiences, experiential learning. And we connect employers and students in a couple of different ways. our primary tool for doing this is a career management platform that's called Handshake. So as you arrive to campus, all students are given access to Handshake, which is really meant to be kind of a comprehensive toolkit for you to be able to not only schedule an appointment with your career advisor, but also to browse literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of job and internship opportunities, for you to be able to connect with career fairs, for you to be able to explore what it might look like to work in a certain field through attending an information session or what we would call a coffee chat. Those are ways for you to be able to really talk to somebody that represents a particular company or organization and ask them questions about what they do, what it's like to work there, and how you get hired. And so our team is responsible for putting on all of those different employer-facing events, information sessions, career fairs, even on-campus interviewing. And I guess I'll put on campus in quotes right now because we are, as Kamilah said, doing all of that in a virtual environment. We actually just wrapped up a 2-day virtual career fair at the end of September, where our students have the opportunity to be able to meet with over 150 employers over a 2-day period. So it was really, really exciting to do all of that. Probably wearing sweatpants, at least from the bottom half, which is something I can say that I don't think any of our students have ever done before at a career fair. But it was wonderful, and it was a great chance for them to be able to explore kind of the range of employers across the entire country, really, that are interested, in our Northwestern students. The only other thing I'll throw out there is that we also are really invested, as Kamilah said, in partnering with a lot of the different entities that are on campus. And so in addition to working with employers for recruiting endeavors, we also work really closely with a lot of student organizations and some of our other partners in student affairs to put on more prep and exploratory programs. Our employers are interested in meeting students, not only to look at them as a prospective candidate, but also to help them be kind of a partner in gaining and learning professional skill sets. So a lot of our employer partners are also really excited to come to campus and talk a little bit about what it might be like to put together a comprehensive LinkedIn profile, or how to put together a resume from their perspective. And so all of these things make working with employers really, really fun, because at the end of the day, their goal is the same as ours, which is that they're very, very eager to bring a Northwestern student onto their organization.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love that overview. I always, especially now as an alum, I didn't know there were so many things when I was on campus, and I'm glad that y'all are only, there's always so much more coming. And I'm so glad to hear, especially that y'all are thriving in this remote setup with the career fairs and everything taking place. Oh, how I wish I could have gone to a career fair back in my day in sweatpants, but hindsight is 2020. Everything along those lines. Since this was already touched upon I'm not sure who would like to address this, but have you seen that, you mentioned a little bit about the career fair and its wonderful success in this remote setting. Would you want to talk a little bit more about how spring also looked like for students who were on their way out the door, or anything along those lines in the midst of everything going on?
Sure. I think probably Kamilah and I could both address certain parts of that question. I'll talk a little bit, Kamilah, maybe it'd be helpful just to talk a little bit about what we saw, how we saw employers responding, and how we've seen employers respond since that time. And then maybe Kamilah can talk a little bit more about the ways in which we've really supported students during this sort of past 6 months. Because you are right, this has truly been unlike, it's cliche to say it's unprecedented, but it really has been. It's been a 6 months kind of unlike anything that certainly we've ever experienced before. I think in the very, very beginning, when we first began to work from home, I think a lot of what our focus was on was just reaching out to organizations to see whether or not that they were still able to maintain the internship programs and the offers that they had extended to students. So a lot of our work in the beginning was simply reaching out to our employer partners, making sure that our students still had an enriching experience for the summer. In the instances, and we're very lucky to say that there were not a ton of times where our students' opportunities were canceled. We were very lucky that a lot of our students were able to convert their internships to a virtual experience, but certainly that wasn't the case across the board. We know some industries were certainly disproportionately affected by this. And so in those instances, I think our team really tried to pivot and look at other ways to be able to still enrich students' experience, to be able to give them really a meaningful summer and still give them exposure to the world of work. We did a brand new initiative for our office over the summer, which were called Summer Institutes. And these were a way for our students through week-long career exploration to meet with lots of different alums and representatives from different industries and be able to have the opportunity to really see what it would be like to work at a particular company. Typically during the summer, we like to actually travel with students and through our Career Treks program. And so this was a virtual version of those career treks. And so students really had the opportunity to sort of see what it was like to work at a particular place, even without leaving their home. So this fall, all of our recruiting initiatives are in a virtual format. And I think, that we were really curious to see what that was going to look like. I am very happy to say that our students still have had a lot of opportunities. We've been tracking things like job postings on a weekly basis, obviously very closely. And in many, many cases, we've seen those numbers at or even above levels of where they were in 2019. So we're happy to see that there are lots of opportunities that are still being shared. Again, obviously, different industries are recovering sort of in different ways. But the virtual format, the upside of that is that it's provided some new and interesting opportunities. I think the first thing is that with so many companies that we work with, suddenly being able to offer a virtual internship where maybe that was never something that they were offering before, we've seen a lot of students who've actually had the opportunity to be able to take on an experience, an internship or a short-term job exploration during the academic year, which may again not have been something that their schedule kind of permitted for before. So a lot more flexibility with employers. I think the other thing that we've seen that's been really positive is that we have so many employers that now that they're not limited by the ability to travel, have been able to attend our career fair or present to students over a Zoom, or even be able to give our students really high level exposure to very senior level folks at organizations, again, whose schedules would have never permitted them to do that before. So while I don't want to act as if everything has been perfect and fine and isn't this great, I think we really have tried to leverage the most of what has been a really, really difficult period of time, for so many. Kamilah, I don't know if there's other things that you might want to add there.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about how we've been supporting students remotely. I mentioned earlier that we've switched to an all remote advising model. So all of our team is available via Zoom to meet with students. And this has actually worked out really well. As we all moved into changes in spring and moving into summer and fall, everyone at the university had to pivot and find a new way to respond to student needs. And our team has always done virtual appointments. So for us, it was a pretty seamless transition from working in the office to just taking our laptops home and connecting with students. And in some ways, it's led to even deeper connections with our advising team because, in an average day on campus, you're rushing between classes and fitting in appointments. And it's been really nice for students to be able to not have to commute to an appointment, and we just hop on Zoom and have conversations and we can fit them in throughout the day. So we're available by Zoom and also by phone. We've also launched live chat this fall. So that's also been a great way for students to just type a question to a member of our team throughout the afternoon, and we're there to give an instant response or to connect them to resources. Geni mentioned the Summer Institute programming we did. We also had another initiative this spring and leading into the summer called Career Conversations. And we put together a range of conversations with alumni and other professionals in a webinar format where our team was either interviewing them or sometimes they did the whole presentation, but gave really helpful career advice or talked about their journey. And we've been able to also record those and make those available after the event. So the other thing about moving into this remote environment that's been great is now we have a recording. So in the past, if you missed an on-campus program, it was hard to capture the information, but now we can just send people to a recording, and we've created a really nice library of resources for students to refer back to as they're applying to opportunities and moving forward. The other thing that I'll just add to just the career search that Geni touched on is I use the word pivot, and as a running joke, pivot has been sort of the commonly used word on campus and probably everywhere this year. But for a lot of students, as we've looked at the internship search or the job search, it has changed in some fields. But Geni noted there have still been a lot of positions and a lot of opportunities. And so our team has really worked to understand students and their goals and interests and to help them kind of navigate into maybe a role that might look slightly different, but still offers an opportunity to gain skills, gain experience. And, this is a national situation. We know that eventually, hopefully we can all, circle back to areas that we were focused on previously, or maybe find a new area that we love more in our long-term career planning. But that's the beauty of the individual appointment and really getting to know students and having those conversations.
That all sounds really awesome. I never really thought that's kind of obviously like there's nothing like glamorous about the pandemic that we're going through, but I really do enjoy all the ways that y'all have been creative in terms of connecting students with those employers and then having those virtual opportunities even during the academic year. I think that's speaks a lot to how these different employers are willing to interact with Northwestern students, because that definitely was my experience as a student who went through the recruitment process while I was at Northwestern. So I'm really glad that y'all are shared very honest and very wonderful answers of all the ways that you're supporting those students. Speaking of which, one of our attendees here today, this is a segue, just kind of adding on. You talked about this already a little bit, the both of you. How often would you say that students interact with their career advisors? I have my idea of what the answer is, but I want to hear from y'all since you're here.
Great question. So there is no limit to the amount of times and methods through which you can contact your career advisor. We really enjoy building the relationship. And so sometimes, when we're on campus, we have an in-person appointment, but our advising team is also available by email. So there might be a follow-up question or back and forth. There is no limit, and some students use our services maybe once or twice and get what they need and they move on independently. And we have students who come to our office, weekly or monthly to have a follow-up engagement. There are also different steps in the application process. So, sometimes if you're writing a resume, there might be feedback from the advisor and then you need another feedback on the second draft. So we might meet again. Then, after every interview, there are students who check in and tell us about their progress. So I answer that question by saying there's no limit, and we are really here and as available as needed for students, however they need support. And there's no shame in reaching out to us a lot. I know one of the things that we all go through, and I did it as a student as well, is like, I don't want to bother them or they're busy, but truth is that's what we're here for. Our title is career advisor, and that means we're here to support you in any way you may need while you're on campus.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was my experience. I think one of the things I will say is like, we have these two wonderful staff members from NCA. And I think one of my favorite things about Northwestern, you can tell that I'm probably going to go on many tangents being like, back in my day and back down memory lane. But I think it's really great. And it's very true that Northwestern has wonderful advisors across many fields that are so willing and wanting to help students out. So I think I was going to say like, it's as often as you like, but it truly is as often as you like. And I'm happy to have that answer reaffirmed. So what about for students who are still trying to figure it out along the way? What if they're unsure about their careers, or if they're like me, indecisive?
So one of the things I mentioned earlier is that we are here to meet you where you are in the process. And Geni and I have a third counterpart. Her name is Tracy Thomas, and she leads our career counseling team. And that's important. We have an entire team here to support students who are undecided or uncertain about career paths. And that team is so skilled in having those conversations. And so that process of being undecided is also not a one-time thing. Sometimes, we have a lot of students who might come in and they're undecided, and then they develop some certainty through coursework or an experience or an internship and know their path. But there are also times where you think you're sure, and then you have an internship, and then it leads to more indecision because it might not have been what you expected. And so that's something you can come back and forth with our team on and kind of process where you are and then think about potentially new directions. But that team I mentioned earlier uses career assessments as well as just their ability, their counseling abilities and their knowledge of a wide range of career paths to really guide students through that indecision and to provide support there.
I'll just add too that I think that there is a career urban legend, let's call it, that oftentimes persists, where there's this belief that as quickly as possible you need to pick a path, stay on that path, and that somehow is going to make all of this job search so much easier. And what I want to say about that from the employer perspective is that one of the things employers absolutely love about Northwestern students is how multifaceted they are, how interesting they are, because their interests are so varied. Oftentimes our students elect more than one major. Oftentimes our students pursue a certificate or a minor that is every bit as important to their academic and professional identity as their primary degree is. And what you will find is so often our employers will ask students about that. Now, certainly that doesn't mean that you should get around the question of being able to articulate in an interview why you're interested in this particular opportunity, right? We want you to at least be able to feel good about that. But I don't think that most employers are going into interviewing a candidate, especially for an internship, somehow needing to be convinced that this is the one and only place that they've ever wanted to work and the only thing that they want to do. And in fact, I would say it's oftentimes quite the opposite. They want to know why they're interested in this particular opportunity, but they want to know some of the other things that make our students so cross-functional and, again, multidimensional.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love that. I think it gets to my next question. Y'all are just like leading me to my next questions and topics in mind, and things that I hear a lot from prospective students, since I do interact with a good amount of them out on the road and now virtually over Zoom and all those wonderful places, as you do with our current students. So I think that a question that we get pretty often, as you are all aware, we do not have an undergraduate business degree offered at Northwestern. And I think from like a high school student perspective, from what I've seen, and high school students and or family members, if you're attending, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like an anxiety in not knowing, like, does that mean that if I don't major in finance, I can't go into finance? Or if I don't major in marketing, I can't go into marketing? Do you want to talk about how employers sort of know all of these ways and the ways that you sort of bridge those gaps, or just discuss that, like, I guess, misconception that that's the only way to do that, especially since those opportunities academically are not necessarily offered at Northwestern?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a common question, and it's a question that we also hear from first-year students. I think this is probably a great question for Kamilah and I both to answer, because I'd love for her to talk a little bit about when this question comes up in advising appointments and sort of some of the things that they talk about. But I will just say, on the employer end of things, I can tell you that it is not a detriment to our students, that our students are very successful in many of the industries that you just mentioned. As a matter of fact, the sort of #1 industry landing spot for our students when they graduate is, in fact, business services. About 20% of our graduating class from 2019 was indicated that their industry, their first landing spot after graduation was in a business-based career. So we certainly do not see that, from the employer end of things and from the competitive end of things. Do students sometimes need to supplement certain coursework in other ways via student organizations and other things like that? Or do they express their career interest through, again, a variety of different things that they're involved in? Absolutely. But the feedback we get from employers is not that our students show up unprepared, or that they perform less well than those that are in a more traditional business setting. So that's something I think we're really proud of. And I think that certainly we don't see students to suffer from lack of opportunity as a result of that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that by, I like that, Geni, you mentioned how where our students go after graduation. And earlier we talked a little bit about networking and how our career advising team works with students on networking. We have so many alumni working in such a wide range of career paths. And not only do those alumni come back to us and support programming efforts that we have, like the summer institutes, like our career treks when we're able to travel, but they're also available for students to reach out via email to learn more, to build relationships. They reach out to us with opportunities. So that network of Northwestern alumni in these fields who want to support not only our students' career education, but also providing opportunities for our students to consider in these fields is huge. We also have what we call industry teams in our office. So we have advisors and employer relations team members who work collaboratively to support programming and efforts for some of the industries you mentioned. We have a finance industry team, we have a consulting industry team, a marketing and advertising industry team, and those teams produce newsletters that go out to students with job postings highlighted for those fields and career guidance as appropriate. So I'm part of the marketing and advertising team, and we often will put in tips or things we've learned from alumni in those emails, in addition to highlighting job and internship postings. And many of our colleagues do that as well with the various sources where we send out information. I also want to just further state or acknowledge that our career advisors are really well-versed in a wide range of industries. So there's often this belief that, career advisors only know one thing or one space, but our advising team, not only do we engage in professional development to learn more about different career paths and also meet the alumni and go on treks with students, we are really skilled at working with students. And as I said, I'll say it a lot, meet them where they are in their knowledge about a field and then help them shape that to be prepared. So there's knowledge that will come through coursework and internships, but also our team supports students and meets them and guiding them in that direction as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is everything that you shared, especially, all the different opportunities and resources and experiences academically on campus and through our alumni network. I mean, it's like, oh, here I go again, talking about another walk down memory lane. But for me as an alum, I think it's a really great experience that I've had connecting with folks across the world through our alumni network, and that I've been connected with through the career fairs that we have. I've always remember seeing there's this purple-ish name tag that a lot of alumni have at the career fair, and it's pretty obvious. So I know that NCAA does that to point out, be like, hey, I'm a Northwestern alum. And I cannot tell you how many I saw there. So great for me to be able to approach companies that I was interested in at the time and be like, okay, this is cool. Like, we can connect about what it was like to be a Northwestern student. They've been in my shoes. So it makes me feel a lot less intimidated to go talk to a recruiter or a member of that. So I'm really grateful for that liaisoning and the alumni network that we do have. I did have another question that was tied a little bit more into location. So we are near the city of Chicago. For those who aren't aware that are attending, if this is your first Northwestern session, welcome. We are just about 3 miles north of the city of Chicago, my favorite city in the entire world, but we can have a conversation between the three of us here or in the audience if you disagree. But can you talk a little bit more to if Northwestern has any specific programs? I know that we have our Chicago Field Studies program run through a different office at Northwestern, and or any other Chicago specific opportunities that we have available as Northwestern students.
Do you want me to go, Kamilah? So first of all, yes, I love Chicago. Probably the only time that you would ever hear me saying that I don't is maybe for like a week in February, and then and then summer happens in Chicago and we fall in love all over again. So yes, it is not a hard city to fall in love with, and we are so lucky to have both our Evanston and our Chicago campus locations. So I think that you will find that there is a general love affair with Chicago for those that are affiliated with Northwestern. We're very lucky to have that proximity, and we're lucky to have that proximity for so many reasons. One of those, certainly you mentioned, is Chicago Field Studies. Chicago Field Studies, though it is a program that operates separately from Northwestern Career Advancement, is a program we actually work extremely closely with. As a matter of fact, Chicago Field Studies leverages Handshake to post all of their opportunities for students who are looking to engage with that program as well. Briefly, I'll just talk a little bit about that for those who might be unfamiliar with the program. It is an opportunity for students to be able to obtain academic credit and do an internship, usually anywhere between 20 and 40 hours a week for 1 quarter of their academic time while they are at Northwestern. So as Mauricio mentioned, it's a great opportunity for students to be able to be both a student and to gain some close to full-time work experience. One of the other things I will just say is that because of our proximity, we really do benefit greatly. Chicago is the #1 landing spot for our students after they graduate. I think recruiting is, well, I would absolutely argue that we have a global reach for a school like Northwestern with the kind of brand that we carry. I would also say that recruiting is in many ways functionally regional. And so what happens is that you have a lot of representation from major global companies because they have locations here in Chicago. And so we really benefit from that. And we benefit from that in a multitude of ways, which not the least of which is that I think that so many of them are willing to physically come to campus. And again, I say that kind of in quotes or parentheses right now, of course, we're in a little bit of a different time, but in sort of a more typical time, it's so easy for us to be able to say, hey, we're going to have this panel and could you send a representative, from your organization? And our students get this wonderful, rich interaction with somebody from an organization, again, that has a global presence to it. We've also been able to take kind of local treks. And so we've been able to bring students on site to explore many of the offices that are located, right downtown Chicago, be it, taking an advertising track and exploring some of the wonderful storied advertising agencies, that are based right there in the Merchandise Mart, or going to visit, Google's Chicago-based offices, or being able to bring students to visit behind the scenes at the Lincoln Park Zoo. These are the Art Institute. These are all local treks that we've been able to do. And again, so much of that is because of that proximity, right there in Chicago.
Awesome. Thank you for going into detail about that and just how wonderful and how great of a partnership we have with the city and the awesome opportunities that students do have. Speaking of which, I think you touched upon this right now. Again, all these segues, it's like we're all on the same brainwave. I love it. And I'm not just making that up. But so we got a question just come in. I think as we were talking about this, what does a trek with a student look like? I know that these take place nationally, maybe internationally, I have no idea. But and one of my friends did one as an engineering student at Northwestern. Do you want to talk about what the structure looks like for a Northwestern career track?
I'll kick us off and then Geni, you can hop in as well. So when we are able to travel, we've taken treks to the San Francisco area for technology and startups. We've gone to Los Angeles for film and TV, New York for investment banking and marketing and advertising. And then as Geni also mentioned, we are able to take local treks into Chicago to visit employers, sometimes 1 or 2 different visits throughout the day. So a trek can vary based on the location. I will talk a little bit about my experience. I went on the film and TV trek to LA and Geni's been on a few, but the film and TV trek, we had a group of students who were all interested in careers in that arena. And during that trek, we went to film studios. We actually saw a taping of a television show where an alum was a writer there and he came and spoke to us. And then also we got to see the taping. We went to a couple of different studios where alumni have roles and they talked to us about their career paths. And then we got to see a few sets. We also went to, during that trek to, I believe we visited a theater, but all of these are places where we're able to connect ideally with alumni who can talk about the work that they do, spend about an hour or so with them learning about their work. Sometimes there's a tour involved of the location, and then even have follow-up. We also are able to provide those alumni who speak with us with the resumes or a bio of the students who are attending. So there's a connection built. And we talked a little bit about networking earlier. So that kicks off a potential networking relationship so that the student is also able to follow up, experience the city where the work is happening, and get a really good feel of what it would be like to work in that arena.
I'll just add, Kamilah, that we also had a law, government, and policy trek in DC. I don't know if I heard you say that one, but I want to make sure that one gets a shout out too. And they are about, so treks are usually about 3-ish days long. So with some travel on either end of things, and the students do stay together in a hotel. And as Kamilah mentioned, also get a little bit of a chance to sort of explore the city too, because you are making decisions, I think, simultaneously about career path and also what that career path looks like in that geographic location.
I think one thing I'll just add, Geni spoke about the institutes earlier, but because we weren't able to travel this year, we really sought to create that same Trek experience virtually for students. So if, things continue, we're not able to travel, we still have a way to bring in our alumni and create as best of an experience as we can. And the feedback we got on the institutes was really overwhelmingly positive from students getting to meet so many alumni, and it didn't have the travel involved, but they still maybe got to meet more alumni because we didn't have to choose one city, and they were able to experience alumni from all over the world in some cases to talk about their career paths.
Awesome. That's good to hear. I have an unrelated question before we have a follow-up question related to Trex. So in our office, or I don't even know if this is like my office thing, we like to refer, or people refer to Northwestern's Alumni Network as the Purple Mafia. Is that true? Is that a thing elsewhere? What are your thoughts on that?
So that has been the label given to our alumni working in the entertainment industry. There are two organizations, the NUEA, there's NUEA East and West, the East in New York, the West in Los Angeles or in the California area. Northwestern University Entertainment Alliance is NUEA, and they've been also called the Purple Mafia as well. So I've heard.
Okay. Good to hear. Good to hear that I'm not making anything up when I talk about specific alumni in our network, but that's good to hear. Follow-up question, back to the topic of Trex. Thank you for humoring me in that personal question. Do students pay fees for these Trex, or how exactly are they funded? Or could you talk a little bit more about some of the resources that y'all provide through Trex, and or I know that y'all have really great partnerships in the career attire realm as well as the SIGP realm, and y'all can explain that.
Great. I'll start by talking about some of our financial support and the costs involved in participation. Then Geni can chime in as well. So for Trex, yes, there is a small cost involved, but we also have financial support for students who are unable to pay that amount. And so for anything that we do as an office, it's very important to us to provide support or resources for participation for students wherever possible. So if there's ever an opportunity that we are promoting through NCA where there's a cost involved, we encourage students and also try to make it very public to reach out to us so that we can find ways to support their participation. We would never want anyone to not be able to engage in a meaningful career development opportunity due to financial concerns. In addition to financial support for the Trex, we also have a program called the Career Development Fund, where we have 3 areas of funding. One is for professional attire. And with the professional attire funding, we offer a $300 stipend for the purchase of a suit. A suit can be a barrier, an expensive barrier to engagement and career experiences for some students. And Geni can talk more about how we've worked on that in other ways, but we don't want any student to graduate from Northwestern without having a suit or having concerns about obtaining one. And so we provide support for purchasing a suit. Through the Career Development Fund, we also provide support when we are able to for travel to professional interviews. So occasionally there are employers who are not able to fund students traveling for interviews out of state. And so we are able to cover the cost of flight and lodging for students who have those interviews, and also for graduate and professional school interviews as well. So more information can be found on our website. It's called the Career Development Fund, but it's something we're really proud of to be able to support engagement in career pursuits for students.
Thanks, Kamilah. And I'll just add, first of all, thank you so much that the question was posed. I hope you can tell between Kamilah and I that this is something that we both care deeply about and is personally deeply important to our office. We don't ever want to see any opportunity that a student cannot pursue based on their own financial constraints. So we really have tried to do everything within our power and capability to be able to mitigate barriers. A couple of the things that I'll just mention, as Kamilah alluded to, a couple of years ago, we actually made the decision to change dress codes for all of our career fairs, as well as our in-person, what we would call information sessions or sort of recruiting-based events. So anything not a formal interview, we relaxed that dress code to business casual. We did not want any student to feel like there wasn't something that maybe they had in their own closet that would then prevent them from otherwise pursuing an opportunity that they were really, really excited about. And we make that very clear to employers. We also, as another way to address this, in addition to the Career Development Fund, a couple years ago, we actually started something called Cat's Closet. And Cat's Closet is an opportunity for students to come shop at NCA. And this is for any student, anytime. Freshman through PhD can access Cat's Closet. And this is both business formal as well as business casual attire that is, in most cases, donated and very gently used. We have beautiful clothes in the closet. And we're very, very lucky that our alumni and the Northwestern community get very excited to do a little bit of spring cleaning and share with us some of their wonderful garments. And as a result of that, we have wonderful clothes to be able to offer students, and that is for keeps. So a student can access the closet once a year and be able to take up to 3 items and be able to walk away with something that they feel really, really good about. The last thing I'll just mention is that we also have a program that is called SIGP, as Mauricio mentioned. We love an acronym at Northwestern. SIGP stands for Summer Internship Grant Program. So you can understand why SIGP rolls a little quicker off the tongue. But SIGP is a program that is available to students. It is a combination of being both need and merit-based. And it is an opportunity for students who will be taking an unpaid internship for the summer to be able to obtain some additional funding. So in years past, we've been able to fund anywhere between 300 and 400 students over the summer to be able to offer a grant of $3,000 for students to be able to use, again, to mitigate any expense that they might incur over the course of the summer. So those are just some of the things that we're trying to address. It's never enough, but it's something that we're always constantly working on. It's really, really important to us that students feel like our office is accessible to them and that career services is accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really grateful for all the, accessible ventures and efforts that NCA has put together. Especially, I remember during my senior year, it was when this was the switch over to having a business casual attire. So it just made me feel more confident about, walking into a career fair. Even though I would like to say sometimes I can dress pretty well and put on a nice blazer, but focus more so on what I have to offer and also have all these financial opportunities. I remember also taking advantage of the Career Development Fund for a suit for a lot of my interviews. So I'm really grateful, just as a shout out, as a thank you, and showing that these resources are valued and very needed. So I'm grateful for them.
Well, we appreciate that. And I just want to say, I think the whole idea behind it is really that we want students to just show up as their authentic selves, right? So we don't want students to feel like, hey, if you want to rock a mauve blazer, you go right ahead, because Mauricio, you look great in that blazer. But I think the idea really is that we want you to feel like you're putting your best foot forward, because we know when you do that, you feel more confident. And some of this stuff is scary, right? It can feel a little intimidating to interact and engage with a recruiter for the very first time, or set foot into the career fair, especially as a first-year student. And so what we strive for is that every student can show up there feeling like they're really their authentic selves.
Absolutely. I love it. I love to see it. Love to hear it. This isn't a good segue. There's just a skipping over. But we talked a little bit about this in terms of partnerships, with student enrichment services through some of the research that you mentioned already. Do you want to share a little bit about some of the other partnerships that y'all have with other offices on campus? I know that you also, as shared a little bit earlier, partner with Multicultural Student Affairs. And I also know that specific schools at Northwestern also have their own additional career advising, including our School of Journalism and our School of Engineering. Do you want to talk about how y'all collaborate to support students in those ways?
Sure, happy to. So I mentioned earlier that our career advising team has a school-based model. One of the interesting things about just sort of the Northwestern culture and experience is that when you're in a school, that school becomes we are one Northwestern, but then you have this identity with colleagues and advisors and peers all within a school, and there's a culture within each school at Northwestern, and there are different requirements in different schools at Northwestern. And so our team has really worked to structure our advising so that it is connected to the resources that are existing within each school. As Mauricio mentioned, there are 3 school-based career offices, and as a prospective student, you may have heard about them or you'll hear more about them. Within engineering, there's an office called Engineering Career Development, and we work very closely with Engineering Career Development. They provide support for undergraduate and graduate students in McCormick, but they also support students who are pursuing co-ops. On our end, we tend to support students who are interested or in engineering, but interested in a broader range of career paths beyond the traditional engineering career paths. Like we have a lot of students who might want to pursue careers in business related fields or nonprofits or governments. And so we do that career advising support through our office. Within School of Communication, there is a career office called EPICS. And EPICS also works with undergraduate students. They have what are called modules, which are sort of an in-depth study and career conversation in different areas. And so their office not only advises undergraduate students, but also provides career support for students in the modules. And our career advisor is really amazingly talented in working with students in the School of Communication who are pursuing jobs and internships. And then there's also within Medill, there is a career office called Medill Career Services. Again, we partner very closely and kind of work in different ways. Our career advisor who works with Medill students does everything that the students in the Medill Career Services office do. She's kind of like one of their team, and you wouldn't even notice the difference between their team and our team and you're in meeting with her. She does a lot of programming for Medill students, and we really are there to offer sort of a more comprehensive network of support for students in Medill. Something else I want to mention as we're just talking about other career offices and thinking about internships is some of those schools also have kind of curricular internships or ways you gain experience as a part of the school. So Medill has something called journalism residency, which is a quarter-long or sometimes longer experience working on site in an area of journalism that is of interest or sometimes beyond that. CESP has a practicum, which is another experience that is almost like an entire quarter internship working in an area of interest. And then also I talked a little bit about engineering co-op as well. So there are some ways that you can gain experience when you're a part of a school at Northwestern that are just built into the major. And that's a really nice way to get your feet wet in internships.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I think it kind of segues into this next question that has come up a couple of times, and I figure render some addressing. So from my friends' experiences, I know that a lot of my friends have had opportunities, including, a lot of them fortunately have had the opportunity while they were undergrads at Northwestern during the 2018 Winter Olympics to do their journalism residency with NBC over in Pyeongchang, South Korea. I also know that there are a good handful of students outside of School of Journalism who pursue international or professional opportunities internationally. Are there those international opportunities available and or advertised by Northwestern Career Advancement outside or in conjunction with these schools as you already discussed?
Sure, I'll start by answering that question. I think the first thing I'll say is that the answer is absolutely. We post, I mentioned we post thousands of opportunities in Handshake, over 1,000 a week usually, of job and internship opportunities. And what students will find when they go in there is that those opportunities truly do span the globe, as does really, I think, our own presence and our alumni footprint. And so the opportunities are absolutely there for our students to be able to browse. There are a lot of other offices on campus too that we partner with when it comes to thinking about global education abroad and kind of what that looks like. And for students who might be interested in exploring a career short-term or long-term working and living abroad. I would also say that so many of the organizations that we work with, so many of the companies that we work with also have a global footprint themselves. And so oftentimes we will see opportunities that might be, McKinsey might post their opportunity in Chicago, but they're also going to post their opportunity in Germany, for example. So I think we also really get the benefit of those global companies that we work with and the opportunity to work locally or globally. Kamilah, I don't know if there's anything you would want to add to that.
Sure, I'll just add that, I'm going to use my favorite phrase again, but meeting students where they are, right? And, we have students come to us with a variety of interests and places where they want to work. And we have some really great resources that we use to support that. So there's a great tool we use called Going Global. And what's amazing about Going Global is it goes through all places around the globe where you might want to work and gives us a sense of what a resume format would look like in that area, sites to find opportunities abroad beyond using Handshake. Handshake's always the first place we start, but it also gives some other resources for that country, guidance for interviewing so that, we're thinking about the conventions of, whatever country we're looking at as well. So we have some resources we also use to support students in their pursuit of global opportunities.
There you have it, folks. You can have a professional opportunity here in Chicago, in the country, internationally. We'll make it happen to support you in whatever way you do choose to pursue that. So we are unfortunately running short on time. How fast an hour goes by when you're having great conversations with wonderful folks like Kamilah and Geni. So thank you again for being here in advance. The last question I do have is more so asking y'all to share some parting words with our wonderful audience here today. And also, I think that, as a prospective student, me 7 years ago, which is a lifetime ago now, but we don't have to talk about that now. I think a lot of folks may be wondering and I hope that, in my opinion, I've gathered a lot of answers to this question already, both as an alum and as a viewer and as a host here today. But what would you say would make Northwestern's career support so unique? I think for me, from what I've heard here today, and in my experience, is like being met where you are and not being limited by your major, and having wonderful people who are really willing to go out there the extra mile to make these resources and a career accessible for you at all levels. Do you want to share a little bit about that along with your parting words here today?
No pressure, by the way, Kamilah, to, just something really, really profound in 4 minutes or less, right? I will just start by saying that I genuinely love what I do, and I genuinely love the people that I work with. And what you will find is that I think when people are motivated and guided every day by sort of feeling like this work is really their calling or their purpose, I hope that it shows in the work that we reflect back to students. I think that you will find that there is tremendous depth of experience and breadth of experience in the professionals that are working at Northwestern Career Advancement. I think we love to be able to be a connection point for students. I think we like to be a sounding board for students. I think we always want to be that place that at every step of the way we are celebrating with you those little accomplishments or those big accomplishments. And I think we always want to be a place that you hopefully think about as playing a really small role in the success that you ultimately find. I think it's so important for us that we are part of your Northwestern story. And I think what you will find at NCA is a group of people who truly love working with students and employers, love working with alums, and love being kind of that connection point or sitting at that intersection of all of those places.
I so agree. First of all, Mauricio, you summed it up so perfectly. I'm trying to think of what additional I can share, and Geni, you captured it well. I will say that, as I speak to you all today, I feel like I am representing the 11 other career advisors and career counselors in our office who can't talk about their passion for their jobs. And then we have a bigger staff than that who just love supporting students and are here to go above and beyond. When you talk to anyone on our team and you ask, like, why do you do what you do? Or we have a long-serving staff. They've been here for a while because, as Geni said, your success is our success. I was just emailing with a student yesterday who I've been working with for over a year, and he got a final round interview that's taking place on Friday. And I'm like, woohoo, because we're in it together. Like, I feel like as he moves forward in the process, I move forward in the process. Like, when the opportunities are secured, we feel like we can celebrate along with you. And I think what makes our support so unique is how dedicated we are to like being alongside you in the journey. And, really that a lot of our conversations and our work comes through individual conversations. We love the opportunity to talk one-on-one, to get to know you, to get to know who you are and what you want to pursue. And so I think that's just what makes our office so amazing. And we have a great team. Geni and I are just two of us, but we are a really fun group who love to support students. And so we hope to see all of you at Northwestern meeting with one of us next year or beyond to talk about your career journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm not going to share anything else about that because y'all said it really well, and I don't want to jinx it. So here we are. Well, thank you so much again, Geni and Kamilah, for being here. Thank you to all of those wonderful people out in our audience tuning in wherever you may be, whatever time it may be, where you are. We really appreciate you being here, especially deciding to have attend a virtual session. We know that you've been in front of your computer screens a lot, to say the least. And I know that these are still very difficult times with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and just a lot of things happening in this world. So we hope that you take care of yourself, stay safe, stay well, wash your hands, wear a mask, all those good things. And in general, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like if you enjoyed this wonderful conversation that we had here today. And then stay tuned tomorrow for our last of 3 episodes this week, where we get to chat one-on-one with academic support services here on campus. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day and go Cats. Woo!